Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. Today we've got some really exciting Star Wars news, speculation, and a few tidbits here and there, and we start with Jedi Survivor, the upcoming sequel to Fallen Order. This Thursday, 8th of December, Jedi Survivor is going to be showcased at the Game Awards, and it's very likely indeed we are going to get the final trailer, and on top of that, some gameplay footage. The other day they revealed the cover of Battle Scars, the novel that connects the time period between the two games. But today on Steam, they've announced the official release date, March the 15th. That's right guys, March has both The Mandalorian Season 3 and Jedi Survivor. On top of this, they confirmed that Cal Kestis is going to have a blaster, and there are skins for Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan, and Han Solo. Do not underestimate how huge this game is going to be, so many tie-ins expected, and now, as I say, we have a release date. Are you excited guys? Because marketing for the game is about to begin on a large scale. And so now my dear friends, some speculation regarding Mando. Are we ever going to hear Grogu say his first words in the show? Is that something that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni even considered when they created him? The main focus of The Mandalorian in its first 2 seasons has been the journey of Din returning Grogu to the Jedi. And so when Luke Skywalker came for him at the end of chapter 16, the goodbye between our hero and little green friend was very short, because as we saw in the book of Boba Fett, he returned to Din, opting to be a foundling with his dad rather than the life of a Jedi under Luke. Now where Grogu's story goes in the 3rd season is a mystery, but as Grogu gets his memory back after years of unknown darkness following Order 66, which Ahsoka hints at, is he gonna start to talk? And what will his first words be? I've often made the joke that Seth MacFarlane should voice Grogu using the Stewie voice.
Oh no, it doesn't have to be awkward, not if we don't make it awkward.
But all kidding aside, I don't think the creators on the show have Grogu speaking in mind, at least not for the time being in The Mandalorian. Maybe in a future movie or spin-off further down the timeline. There have been rumours that some of the upcoming Star Wars movies are going to be set post episode 9, and I can definitely imagine an older Grogu, a more mature Grogu who talks. Now, in order to properly answer the question, we've got to take a look at the other Yoda species in canon to work out when Grogu is gonna start to talk. Yoda died at the age of 900 years old, and Yaddle was somewhere in the 400s when Count Dooku killed her in Tales of the Jedi. As a 50-year-old, Grogu is still very much an infant in terms of his own species and the way they age. In Legends continuity, we know that Yoda began speaking somewhere between the ages of 100 and 200. And in case you're wondering why Yoda speaks with the syntax that he does, our answer can be found in a comment made in the 80s by Frank Oz. He was told by George Lucas that Yoda speaks that way because that's the way he was taught Galactic Basic all those centuries ago, when all of the Jedi Knights spoke that way. And bear in mind guys, that comment was made years before Lucasfilm made the Old Republic. But in more recent times, Frank Oz updated his comment. Speaking to Dave Filoni, he said, Yoda speaks that way in honour of his master. And his master, at least in Legends, was Encarta del Gormo, a male Hysalrian snake who first appeared in Star Wars Galaxy magazine issue number 9 all the way back in 1996. When Yaddle learned Basic, she learnt it the way that the Jedi Knights that came just before the High Republic did, and this is why she speaks with a normal syntax. Now this means that unless Grogu learned Basic from Yoda at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant and has just been repressing his ability to speak, then he too will have regular speech patterns. But when will this be? Well, probably not for a very long time, not even within Din Djarin's lifetime, another 50 or so years, unless of course Jon and Dave deliberately want Grogu to say his first word on the show. But would it ruin it? Would Grogu speaking in The Mandalorian be off-putting? Slightly. But if they're able to pull it off, then why not? I prefer for them to leave Grogu be until he appears in some other project far into the future, when he's a full Mandalorian, or maybe even a Mandalorian Jedi. Now some Star Wars fans have suggested that Grogu does know how to speak, but due to the PTSD following the Great Jedi Purge, and of course his mind going dark, whether he was taken to Mount Tantis or somewhere else, his trauma caused him to stay silent. Hopefully season 3 gives us some answers. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below guys. Do you want to hear Grogu speak in a future Mandalorian season, and do you think it's going to happen? If so, what do you think his first word is going to be? The Mandalorian season 3 drops on March the 1st, 2023. This is the way. And so now, my dear friends, Willow creator Jonathan Kasdan, who also worked on Solo, has opened up about the new Disney Plus series, but also speaks about the potential of a Solo sequel. This interview with The Hollywood Reporter has so many gems. Let's dive straight into it. So he begins by recalling a moment from 2015. He says, quote, "I was sitting with my father Lawrence Kasdan and Kathleen Kennedy, waiting for the WGA screening of The Force Awakens, and Kathy tells a story about George Lucas and how just before the Disney acquisition of Lucasfilm, George mentioned to her that he would love to see more Willow stories. Now this is something that Kathy forgot for many years, but it stuck with John because he was a big Willow fan growing up. His ears perked up, and from that moment on, he knew he wanted to make a Willow series." Now before returning to the subject of Willow, he then mentioned Solo, a Star Wars story, saying the fans' appetite is definitely there if they were ever to make a sequel, and in particular, he's fascinated by Qi'ra. He wants more Qi'ra stories, and not just for the comics, as is being explored right now. When The Hollywood Reporter asked him what's stopping him, he says, "I honestly don't know," but he does say he's afraid to ask Kathleen Kennedy because he seems to be very aware of the fact that Solo lost money, so he doesn't really want to stir the pot. But something that is also brought up is that the actress who played Qi'ra, Emilia Clarke, is desperate to return to the role. Now moving away from Solo, Kasdan also proposes that Lucasfilm should do more specials, more specifically, something like Werewolf by Night as a potential form of storytelling, in other words, short-form novella versions of stories. And finally on the Solo front, he does bring up one thing from the movie that really bothers the shit out of him. Something that he considers a plot hole that he would love to fix in a sequel. This is what he said: "I'm going to reveal the writer's nightmare right now. If Dryden Voss is so concerned about exposing his gang in the Kessel heist, then why does he send his most trusted aide to be the most visible member of the team that steals the coaxium? It seems to me that he's going to have to kill her almost immediately just to separate himself from that job. So it always drove me crazy, and it was a problem I was eager to retcon in a sequel." So really interesting comments there. And so finally he comments on the character of Qi'ra, saying that his dad Lawrence had a lot to do with the conception of the character. Here is the quote: "Before I got involved and before anyone was involved, my dad was really passionate about creating a different kind of femme fatale in the Star Wars universe, someone who was sincerely morally ambiguous. Qi'ra had grown up very hard. She had a life that forced her to become a survivor, and she was gonna have to make some tough choices that Han Solo couldn't quite make. Even in the final moments of his life, Han was always going to be undone by his humanism and his heart, but Qi'ra was on the other side of that line. And what I thought Emilia brought to it wonderfully is that she's not evil or duplicitous. She is a survivor, and she's maneuvering through all of these different entities to get to the end of the game." Now I should say, my dear Mandalorians, that this did change a little bit with the new comic series, War of the Bounty Hunters, Crimson Reign, and now The Hidden Empire, because Qi'ra does have bigger motives than running a crime syndicate. She's obsessed with the Sith, the dark side, Sith history, and now she's going to try and take on Emperor Palpatine. In many ways, she's crossed that line, and now she very much is evil. But in the unlikely event she does survive the comics, it'd be amazing if she does come back to live action. Jonathan Kasdan is a huge advocate for this. Really interesting stuff, guys. Share your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you always.